Welcome, Zissel Slepovich. How are
Thank you.
you?
Thank you, Talya. Thank you. I'm very well. How are you?
I am good. It's wonderful to have you on the show today. I'm
Thank you.
on
Thank
Tune
you.
with Talia.
Wonderful to be here.
And what's really special is that we are very close friends, and we are also musical collaborators, as well as we just went through the whole high holidays together, right?
Yeah, it was just, it just happened.
Just happened. And it's really an honor to have you on here. You are so incredibly talented, and
Thank you.
you play so many different instruments, and your bio is just incredible. And I just felt this was a really wonderful opportunity for people to get to know you and to learn about you, who you are, your music, and just share with us a little bit about
Yeah,
your journey and how you came to where you are today.
sure. And I hope people will have good time too, find it entertaining, and will enjoy.
I'm sure they will. So I'd like to start off just by asking a question, and then you can elaborate on your story. So did the choices and decisions that you made in your life and the dreams you always had for yourself and your education, did that all lead you to to what you are doing today in your life, to where you are today in your life? Or is it what you thought? Is your life what you thought it would be? Tell us a little bit about your
Yeah,
journey.
yeah, that's a great question. In a way, I would say in a major way, yes, because since I was a little kid, since I can remember myself, I was dreaming to become a musician, and my parents are both linguists, different sort of iterations of being linguists. Translators, pedagogues, and also my grandparents, my maternal grandparents are, and they sort of envisioned, I guess, by extension, that their kids and I'm their elder son, and I have a younger sister who's 6 years younger than me, that they would, go in their footsteps. And it also partially came true because languages are also a very important part of me and of my me exploring this world. And I started touring as a musician when I was 12 years old, and almost 13. And I started picking up languages. So my parents creating that multilingual and very open kind of open format atmosphere at home, which also I can say I'm in awe, because that wasn't just any place. That was, for a second, it was Soviet Union. It was Iron Curtain, right? I was born in 1978, so it was very much Soviet Union. It was still Brezhnev, and and it was uh so I sometimes I think, how did my, especially my dad, how did he do that?
Mm-hmm.
With his love for passion for languages, um, he's he specializes in English, and furthermore as English as business communication tool, and his dissertation was on the formal and informal speech at the times when he had to record native speakers during the Iron Curtain. So he was literally catching them, these rare tourists, and getting them to the university to record them in a laboratory, because they didn't have such high level hardware and software that we have, and then we can do it from our pocket literally these days. And like what he did, and he learned Polish as a child, as a teenager, and he taught Polish to me and my mom and my sister. And so I think that passion for languages, it helped me. I was picking up languages pretty easily. I grew up also hearing Yiddish, not from my parents but more from my grandparents. So it kind of penetrated my phonosphere. And when I learned Yiddish later in my 20s, being ethnographer and ethnomusicologist, specializing in Jewish music, Ashkenazic Jewish music, and researching it in the field, in archives, it came sort of naturally. And I heard a lot of such testimonies from other people who were catching up with that almost lost generation, or becoming newly found generation of new Yiddish speakers. Um, you know, um, so all that, I mean, it really enriches, because I think since my early age, there were several things that I think remain the same. That I like to jam with people. I still love to jam with people in a very wide sense. That I wouldn't come up with that definition, but I got that as a compliment, I guess, when I just moved to the United States in 2008. And 2 years later, I was teaching at Brandeis University's program for talented high school students called BIMA at Brandeis, at Genesis at Brandeis. And so this was a sort of a card that one of my students there gave to me. Zisel, you jam with other people so well. And I think this is it. It's like, I think it's a fine balance, that I guess sort of life philosophy, that you want to sort of preserve yourself, but not in a rigid way, but in a very flexible way, by listening to the world, listening to people, jamming with people, and coining yourself through that.
Totally. You have to be a good musician to be so open and so receptive.
I think this is a job requirement
Have
for,
to.
for a musician, but also for a linguist, also for anybody who listens to this world. I think that's very. I mean, you are a wonderful, wonderful musician. Let me just get from my story to you, and then when our friend in common, Vasco Dukovsky, a wonderful, amazing clarinetist, multifaceted musician, introduced us, and he recommended me for a Purim gig right in 2017, and I came
It was
with
so
my.
fun.
It was
When
so
I
much
first
fun,
discovered you. Yeah.
and great food, by the way.
Thank you, Vasco, for connecting us.
Thank you, Vasco. He's in China. It's
You're listening to this in China. Thank you.
Yes. I hope he is. It's like late night, maybe early morning already there. It's like 13 hours difference. Yeah, and I was amazed, and also my colleagues, people with whom I work a lot, many years now. This amazing bass player Dmitry Yushenko, who is a genius in his own right. Went to Berkeley School of Music. He's a native of Odessa, Ukraine, Soviet Union, but also multilingual, not so much multi-instrumental, but in a wider sense, a very sensitive musician who plays everything. We played musical theater, and we'll talk about it later. Yiddish theater, we played, including Fiddler on the Roof in Yiddish. And
It was amazing.
and
I
he
saw
plays.
it.
He's a jazz. Well, you saw it, yeah. I know that.
Incredible.
That was
was
quite a trip.
incredible.
I mean,
Yeah. You're playing and you're associate conducting. It was
I
incredible.
mean, that was for
show.
everybody of us, and then it's all over.
2-year run.
Our careers are over.
Wait, how
Everything
many?
is
It was
done.
2 years?
A year and a half.
Year and a half.
So yeah. I mean, people who much they also she's a real deal. I mean, and I mean, Talya, your culture of singing, your vocal culture, your technique, your musicianship. I immediately I wanted to continue making music with you. This is like
Oh, that is such a.
that's another thing I wanted to share, that it's an immigrant thing, and when you're starting your life from scratch, it's never easy. No matter where you're coming from,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. You have no name, no connections in this country, unless you have a super big name. So that's not the case. So, an opportunity. The very first show we did with the National Yiddish Theater Volksbühne in 2008 was Gimpel Tom, Gimpel the Fool, or Gimpel the Simpleton, after Isaac Bashevis Singer, at JCC in Manhattan. It was a 6-week run, and I was playing with this quartet with a violin, bass, accordion, and me doubling on clarinet, shofar, and wind chimes, mainly clarinet, and being an actor as well there. And the way I could connect with musicians, amazing musicians. So I didn't know a lot of social language, American social language. A lot of that was foreign to me. I mean, I spoke English, but social languages were different. I had to
Right.
accommodate. I had to adjust myself. That was the hardest part, really. But when you play music, like I thought it was that connection was so strong that I wanted to switch to Russian as my primary everyday language. It happened between us as well, right?
Yeah. It's true. Sometimes you break out into Russian with me. You forget that.
Right, because I think that's
I'm
what.
American. English
But
speaker.
but yeah, but it's you know what I mean, because
know
when
what you
you
mean.
establish this strong connection via music, it also translates into verbal language. It seems like if you communicate so seamlessly via music, that means you should be speaking one native language.
True.
I think it's kind of indicative of something, you know.
One thing I have to say about you is when you play piano, you play everything. You play clarinet, you play many different horns, you play clarinet, and you play piano, and you accompany our Shabbat services,
That's
the
right.
congregation
Yeah.
Ladovador. And we play the same thing a lot. Every week we play pretty much the same thing. We have some variations in songs and prayers, but you somehow managed to change it up in a way where you infuse your into some zissel in there and there's some magic happening and you make it more interesting. Every time I play with you, it's like it never feels old. It always feels like you're creating something fun and new and exciting, and I just get right into the zone with you. You just have this way of being so intuitive and sensitive to what I'm doing, and I just feel like when I sing with you, there's some magic that happens every time, and that's why it's so fun, and I
But
and I,
I
and I
think
love.
I think that's a big reason for being a musician. Even if you are prescribed to play exactly the same notes each time, um, so it's not a possibility. It's not to play different notes in many situations. Then you still find something.
Yeah,
Like Fiddler on the Roof in Yiddish or whatever, not in
so
Yiddish.
many times, right?
Same notes, and still you can make it special. You can, and there's this communicate. Music is about communication
Totally.
on many levels, on between musicians and ensembles. So yes, breathing, catching this breath of each other. I think this is one of the most precious things in music. The,
Especially
and
when you have a really good relationship with the person as well, like just feel like your soul is
that
connected
too,
to
but
theirs.
also,
Yeah,
let me tell you, just meeting somebody on stage for the first time, being
right,
introduced first musically and then personally, uh,
right.
when you catch that, and there's that excitement of of mutual appreciation of the musicianship. I think this is one of the biggest bonuses, biggest gifts out there for us, for musicians.
I
That,
agree.
oh yes, we're doing that. This is, and then somebody doing something else. Oh, okay. So let's play this game. You
It's like a
know,
dance.
right? So yeah, there are a lot of things happening, which I think is a secret of our profession. I'm sure you'll agree.
Yep,
You
totally.
know, it is about, yeah, anticipating, hearing very quickly reacting to each other, and establishing a dialogue and weaving that form in a larger sense form, through the performance. So it doesn't really matter what you play. It could be, religious service, could be a classical piece, a musical theater piece, jazz, any ethnic music, you name it.
Yeah.
It's music. And once, even, when I was first introduced to very different musical traditions, non-Western musical traditions, I was very lucky in Minsk, through one of my very important teachers, Dr. Yelena Gorokhovik, and my then girlfriend, also my classmate, who specialized in Indian classical music. I had this amazing opportunity to not only go to the Indian classical concerts, but also get master classes, get kind of trained by Indian classical musicians.
Cool. Yeah.
And that was very special, around like 1999, 2000, 2001, about around that time. And because that was a very different musical world, but then I could hear there's still some inherently musical moments that are driving that. There's time, there's pitch, although very different pitch, but still pitch. And you're just listening, you're learning that different pitch, and how there's gesture, there's, so even dance, I mean, even if it's not officially formally dance, there's gesture in music. It is very important. And sometimes you can hear gesture. One may ask, how about the blind musicians who are legally blind but still make music? Yeah, gesture stretches out beyond the physical vision. You can hear that musical gesture.
True. And so you play so many different styles. You play klezmer music, you play classical music, you improvise, right? You
Yeah,
you
I love
you
to
formed
improvise.
you formed your own group called Litvakis, right? And
One of the groups, yes,
you
that's
have another one, right? Zistel Slepovich Trio.
trio, and then this Slobovich ensemble.
An
I can
ensemble.
talk a little bit about each of them and show
Yeah, I
actually
would
some
love to.
videos.
I'd love to hear about each of them and love to
Right.
see some music that or hear some music that you show. So yeah, what would you like to talk about first?
Well, so 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 yeah. I mean, my background is in first in classical music, uh, and you know, I was, as I said, I was dreaming of becoming some musician since I was 5, and I'm thankful to my parents, and honestly, this is one of the very few things I have to be thankful to the then Soviet system, with all its oppressiveness, lack of freedom, anti-Semitism, and many other things. There was this amazing musical education system that was built and free,
Wow,
and you
that's
know,
amazing.
right. And so when I was 6 years old, and I went to the local, there are music schools which you go to at the same time with your regular elementary or middle schools, uh, you know, and then the special music school, something like they have here in New York, and they built after that model, and then also in Venezuela, and Abreu built it El Sistema, also based on the Soviet model. I think better than the Soviet model. He succeeded. So Gustavo Dudamel was raised in that system, and the whole Bolivar Symphony Orchestra. So I was selected by by the pedagogues of the special music school, but the problem was my parents were both working full time. There was nobody to take me there.
Yeah.
So, and they would not let me, like I was 6 or 7 years old, to just go by myself through the city. You know, Minsk is probably as big as Brooklyn, but Brooklyn is not small. You know, so
Yeah. Not good for a 6 or 7 year old
yeah,
boy.
not for a 6 or 7 year old. And so I got sort of stuck there for a while, but then I joined that special music school later for high school,
Hmm.
as a musicologist. So I chose piano as my main instrument, and then I picked up clarinet when I was about 13 years old. And I studied composition. I then studied conducting.
How did you choose the clarinet? You just loved. You just.
Oh, that's a crazy story. My one of my dreams was to become a symphony conductor,
Oh wow.
which I sort of pursued, and I did that.
You did.
But Jewish music, spoiled my life. I have to blame Jewish music. I fell in love with that and ethnomusicology. But yes, I was dreaming to become a conductor. I was listening to symphonic works, I think beginning fifth grade with full scores, reading full scores, teaching myself to read full scores. Then my first work I listened with a full score in my hands was Tchaikovsky's Sixth Symphony, which is not the easiest score to learn. Honestly, there are a lot of polyphonic moments there. There's a lot going on there. And I remember I was listening to Rostropovich conducting the National Symphony Orchestra, and there was a broadcast on the Soviet TV, or maybe it was already not Soviet. It was around Perestroika time. Yeah, so I wanted to master some orchestral instrument because I was a pianist, but piano is used as an orchestral instrument, but not as commonly as other instruments. So, and I wanted to study oboe because oboe is the orchestra's regulator. Everybody tunes to oboe.
Yes.
But there was no oboe in that kind of basic music school that I was going to. There was a clarinet teacher, who was a pretty good teacher. So I took lessons with him for 5 months. That was my clarinet education. Yeah,
5 months.
5 months. Yeah,
No.
and then as I was going to special music school, uh, as a musicologist, the woodwind teachers would notice me practicing along with everybody, woodwind students, and
Uh-huh.
they would say, like, why don't you join the woodwind department? We invite you. You don't need any exams. We hear you play like all this little Flight of Bumblebee and everything. I was
Yeah.
practicing every single piece, all the concerti, everything. I know I wanted to be up there on a playing level, and I said, listen, I want to be honest with myself, and I was, and wasn't probably there were a few bad examples of people who tried to pursue two majors and they sort of failed, and I was very afraid of that. I was sort of perfectionist. I picked up composition, amazing composition teacher, Valery Karetnikov, who's, I think he's mostly brilliant as a children's composer of children's music, which is great because writing music for children, you have to understand to be able to write that simple music, which is good music also. So good writing, but simple writing. I think that's a great schooling that I got from him. So he taught me, and I was writing something rather complicated, and my own piano chops at the time did not allow me to play that. And then he told me, why are you writing something that you cannot play yourself? And I say, well, I'm not counting on myself. I'm looking, at Sviatoslav Richter, at some great masters. So I'm counting on those guys who will play my music. So I was pretty, and that was, I was in the second or third grade. I was pretty ambitious or perfectionist.
Hey, you gotta dream big.
You gotta dream big, I think. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, that's great. And did you always think you were going to end up living in the United States, or was that something?
No, that was not planned at all. I mean, there was some point just hopping, jumping forward, leaping forward, in the 2000s. So after Soviet Union, we lived in Belarus. So it was a new independent state, and very soon after we had some European Union hopes that all vanished very quickly after the collective farm autocrat took over, Lukashenko, who's still there after 26 years. And a lot of people were born and died already under his rule. And now I just want to say that Belarus is struggling, and people are fighting for their lives, trying to get freedom.
I want to talk about what's going on in Belarus with you.
Yeah, we will. And so anyway, so I was talking about the.
But I asked you how you ended up. Like, did you always?
Yeah. So I was, I was doing all I could there. I was producing festivals. I was doing, I was playing concerts. I was touring. I was doing films. I was doing like all kinds of stuff. But it was not. There was not enough oxygen. There was not. The ceiling was too low there, and. And by saying that, and I know that a lot of my colleagues are also doing a lot, probably much more than I did. I have a great respect for them. But the emigration from there is great. Like, it's really pretty huge. Like, from many problematic states with problematic governments. Like, you can see a lot of amazing musicians from Bulgaria or Romania, or China, of course. Yeah. Pursuing their dreams and being real masters of who they are, of musicians in particular, but also athletes and also other professionals, or IT specialist programmers, where they can fully realize their potential, and that is not their homeland. So it is a tragedy. I was always a little. I've been Mekanigiven, I was a little envious, jealous about people who were. Had an opportunity to fully realize themselves where they were born. I think it's a big privilege. Yeah. Not many people in the world have that privilege. True. And like I'm telling my daughter, who's 7 years old now, that so she appreciates where she's growing up. And America has a lot of problems that are talked about every single day. So I also want her to appreciate that this is really the land of opportunities. That everything is understood in comparison. There are countries where people don't have 10% of these opportunities that people have here. So
that awareness at a young age.
I think it's important. I think it is important.
She is cute, by the way.
Huh?
She's so cute, by the way.
Oh,
adorable.
Thank you.
I love the videos that you post. The first
Thank
thing.
you. She sings. She just joined the National Children's Chorus. She sings in Yiddish. So anyway, so things developed, and I wanted to move somewhere. I was seriously considering Israel, because I can legally move there, being a Jew, and I had been a fellow at Hebrew University of Jerusalem in 2004. Oh. So I established some professional connections there, and I could possibly get some internship or some start. In other words, in professional field as a musicologist. I was considering also Berlin. I was considering Russia, St. Petersburg and Moscow, but probably St. Petersburg, which are very important academic and musical centers worldwide in Russia, and there's a lot to do for specifically Jewish music researcher there with all these archives and institutions. Yes, but I ended up meeting my wife to be at Class Canada. With Class Canada is a big festival that marked its 25th anniversary this year, virtually, as everything is virtual this, including our conversation.
Yes.
But thanks God, it is.
Although we
It
did
is
high
happening.
holidays together in person, but we
Oh,
screwed it
yeah,
out.
I'm so grateful for that. I
That
can't
was
tell how
very
grateful.
cool. Me
You
too.
know, it was my first job out of my apartment after half a year. You know, so
Yeah.
it's something that I was a little nervous, but
Live music.
live music, yeah. You know, so yeah, I ended up here. I ended up in New York City, and I think of all places, you know, it's the place for artists, for musicians. Well, probably not anymore. I mean, now our
Ugh.
careers ended.
Oh gosh.
Everything is,
Don't
you
say
know.
it's ended. It's just on pause.
Well, okay, let's be a little optimistic. You know,
I,
who's the optimist?
I
It's
mean, we all have to try to be.
optimism is lack of information.
Well, it's gonna take a little while. It will.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Trust
it
me, it
will.
has
I mean,
this.
I agree. I agree. We should
It
be.
will come back at some point.
Yeah,
Yes.
but you know, the industry is deteriorating, and
Very
obviously
sad.
the people don't have these resources to, you know,
And all
keep
your
themselves
friends, how is everybody coping with
very
this?
differently,
Yeah.
very differently, both economically and psychologically. So I'm not telling any secrets here. I think it's being talked about, and um, you know, and trying to touch base with people, but it's also hard. And
Mhm.
I'm not saying that it's hard. I'm not comparing. I mean, it's hard for people with, you know, with families, with kids, and we both are parents, and we both know what that entails. But also for people who are alone, it is also hard because they are alone, and it's psychological, and there's a lot of you know, there are suicides, you know, and there's a lot of big problems that are occurring to that, and there's people who are material. My dear friend, and um, who you know, but you know, I will not name that person here for obvious reasons, is both struggling materially and legally because of her status in the United States, and she just, despite her big achievements as a musician, you know, the really musician, she kind of stayed on a visa, and there are problems with, you know, extending that visa right now. She's being sort of being kicked out of the country,
Sorry.
um, having spent here 10 years, being a Grammy nominee, being like, you know, having had a serious career and being a serious musician and having invested, but she's somehow like many, and there, and through her I met many other people who are in the same status, immigration status. I think this is so when I'm saying that, oh, how am I, you know, I feel myself super privileged because I'm not, I have a family, and I have means to survive, and unlike many people who don't. So I think it's just important to reach out to your friends. I think it's important to be conscientious of what's going on, really.
Mhm.
But
Yes.
music, yeah, music, you know, as we said before this program, I would not have thought that I would have all this equipment here, and I would be learning all this technology, and
Yeah.
which is also very dynamically emerging and developing because of this situation.
Hmm.
So obviously there are a lot of positive ways that you learn something new, and the world is changing, and you're adjusting to this world, you
Yeah.
know, and you learn about all these technical things. So we are on Zoom, but we cannot make music on Zoom because of latency.
Right.
For those who don't know, you know, this is when you cannot play together because you cannot synchronize your sound.
Right.
You can talk, but you cannot play together or sing together. So there are other ways, more higher technologically developed, that allow that, and et cetera, et cetera. You know, so yeah, it's interesting time. But music, I think music helps us survive and stay sane.
Thank goodness for music.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, indeed. So
Yeah.
yeah, what?
So you want to do you want to go back and talk a little bit about what it was like growing up in Belarus before you share your videos with us? Just a little bit about what it was like growing up Jewish there and musically. I mean,
Um,
just
yeah, there was no. I mean, it was a very Soviet uh, republic. By saying that, I'm saying that it was, as I said, Iron Curtain. We could not travel outside Soviet Union easily. Um, but I was very fortunate. I think I should speak for myself because my case is not probably a typical case because of my upbringing, and my parents being humanitarians and linguists and music lovers, and that was not a very common thing. So growing up Jewish meant that being surrounded by arts and music, and I guess Yiddish too, which I didn't realize till a certain moment in my life. And I discovered that there is anti-Semitism, that some people want to beat my face because of who I am or how I look, and I got a little bit in my face, but I survived. My face is here, and you know, and then I encountered that also in a higher educational institution, which I have to give a fair credit. Those times were not only much more vegetarian, but also I succeeded to defend the first PhD dissertation on Jewish music
oh,
there. And my dear teacher, my advisor, and then research partner and dear friend, Nina Stepanskaya, Ole Shalom,
tell me about her.
she had her Jewish diary in the 70s, where she was writing in all the ways that every instances when she was discriminated against as a Jew, because she could not speak out openly. There was no one except her parents and sister to talk about such things, and it was like in your face discrimination and insults. And she was one of the best students, and she was, for example, being assigned a special stipend and then being stripped off of that stipend with the words, "Well, you understand, like we can't really give it to you because you're Jewish, no matter how good you are." So I totally realized that. But even though, on my kind of being on the track, also on a track to academic tenure position in Minsk, till I cut it off and moved to New York. Um, I heard this talks, and I heard like when we got to co-teach a course in Jewish music there at conservatory, uh, and there were all kinds of talks. I don't want to bring it up verbatim. It's not worth it. It's all filth. But I'm saying that there were people who felt that way, and I feel sorry for them, because they probably were very unhappy because they felt like discriminating against other people or insulting or feeling somehow negative about other people. I think that Judaism aside, feeling positive just makes you feel better. And just feeling happy for people realizing their potential, living good lives. I think it kind of reflects in the universe, and infuses your life with positivism. So that was it, and I was discovering Jewish traditions and religion, and it was an observance period, which was pretty tough, I must say, in Minsk, because there were no kosher stores, no kosher marked food, nothing, and that was.
And what age did you decide you wanted to try to keep things when you were?
Because of the sense of sort of authenticity, because I was both Professor Stepanska and I were diving into the world of Jewish music, which we had not known at all before. Her being a seasoned musicologist and me just a greenhorn there, but still, and kind of sense of integrity, because we wanted to live those lives. It's not a unique story. I know many such musicians or scholars who became observant because of by the way, by saying observant, I don't mean necessarily Jewish. Also, say Russian Orthodox, Pravoslav, or Catholic. because people need integrity in their lives, and if you really feel connected to the tradition, the phenomenon that you're researching, if you study, I don't know, if you study French music, then you move to France probably, and you spend time around those composers and around those places and those instruments. And so studying Jewish music, huh?
Did you have a chance to do that? Did you have a chance to live in different places while you were learning different music?
Well, I did not live. I traveled a lot, as I said. I was touring, and I was a fellow at Hebrew University. I spent a fair amount of time in Russia, in Moscow, and St. Petersburg at academic conferences. So there was another important connection with the Sefer Center for Academic Jewish Studies there, and St. Petersburg Jewish Academic Educational Organization. I mean, in general, Jewish academic studies in Russia started literally from scratch in the late perestroika, late 80s. And that was a great advantage because they were not constricted by any traditions in the bad sense of the word. So they could really create as they were going. And there's a great sense of academic freedom there, and creativity. So yeah, so it kind of came naturally, and Yiddish came naturally, and
Your grandparents?
and my grandparents and my teachers, and so one of my other important teachers, Professor Ina Nazina, who had studied Belarusian instrumental folk music and ethno-organology, the science of scholarship of instruments, for 40 years. She strongly encouraged me to go for Jewish music studies as somebody who is an ethnomusicologist. And ethnomusicology is not just a musicology plus ethno. It's musical anthropology, basically. And you study the cases of performance, of how music exists socially and orally, and in many other aspects. So it kind of becomes contagious. You want to, and we had this opportunity together with Dr. Stepanskaya to jump on the probably last car of that train, and to go interview people. We went to 20-something cities of Belarus and met a few hundred people, mostly elderly Jewish people who sang, played, and danced for us. Wow. The way, there were some real treasure troves that we discovered. So yeah, we've been talking for like 40 minutes now.
I know.
You can play some music.
Play some music. And by the way, you did tell me that there is a town close to the town that you grew up in, right? That has a name that's very similar to my last name.
Smilowitz, yeah. So you're Smilowitz.
I must have been your name, my ancestors.
No, you definitely are in some of your past generations. Somebody definitely comes from there.
Yeah.
It could be 10 generations, who knows? But still, there's somebody from your dad's side, your father's side, who came from Smilowitz, which is like half-hour drive from the place I lived in, Minsk.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, let me share maybe some stuff. Some stuff. I'm going to share. First, I'm going to start the. I'm sorry, I'm not looking directly at you, but I will.
It's okay. Do your thing. Let's listen and watch.
I don't know.
What do you want to share with us?
Something random. So I want to share actually some performance with Litvakus. So this is the Belarus. So Litvakus is the Belarusian Jewish music that
I like the name.
was fortunate
Litvakus.
to discover in some of our expeditions and archival work there. And I'm sharing the screen right now. So we play here at Jalopy.
There you are.
In Brooklyn. And this is Zoe Aqua on the violin, Josh Camp on accordion, Taylor Berg and Chrisman on the bass, and Sam Weisenberg on the poik, which is a Yiddish word for the drum.
I was just getting in.
It was the end of the clip. Somebody took this video. All right, so I
Fun.
can stop
I love it.
sharing this. Yeah, I can share something different. So
Share something different.
Yeah, some old
Get a little
music that
taste
was
of what you do. What you do.
right,
Have them
right,
do.
right. So, well, so this is I'll show you. So this so I said already that I did Fiddler on the Roof in Yiddish for a year and a half, and this January 27th is not only Mozart's birthday. It's also the Holocaust Commemoration Day because it's Auschwitz Liberation Day, and this year was a 75th anniversary. And after the show closed on January 5th, but before the pandemic started and before we went into lockdown, we convened at Temple Emmanuel with a full company of Fiddler on the Roof and orchestra, and with Itzhak Perlman and the Chazamir Choir and the Klezmatics and many other groups and musicians, wonderful groups and musicians, and we performed a few numbers. So that was the last time we did it. I want to share that. So it's going between the player and sharing. It's a little fiddle, but let's. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I have to click this. This is Steven Skybell, who's a Tevye, and Itzhak Perlman playing the intro, and Zalman Mlotek conducting, the music director of the show.
A Fiedler Affendach. Bei uns in einer Teste ist jeder Engler ein Fiedler Affendach. Was für euch sprachen ein Porsche Hart und Mensch. Und doch nicht sprachen den Kopf. Und es ist nicht so leicht. Werdet ihr, müsst damit fragen, vor was bleiben wir da sitzen? Und die Sakone ist so groß. Wir bleiben, weil Anatefke ist unser Heim. Und wir so halten es Takeois. Auf dem haben wir ein Teure und ein Wort. Tradition.
Yeah, I'll stop here.
I saw that you have an acting streak. That you have there's an actor in you, right? Have you done?
I have acted, yeah, but not professionally, but for real. Yeah. Why do you say so?
No, because I thought you were doing some things over Zoom over the last few months, right? That you were acting you were reading scripts and acting parts.
Well, when you must, you have to.
No, but they were great. You have
Thank you.
acting skills.
Well, you learn those.
You're a man of many,
we
trades and color.
We're preparing a whole video podcast now, so I've been reading quite a bit on the camera, which is a musical companion to the album that we recorded with Zisel Slipovich Ensemble and Sasha Luria for the Fortunov Video Archive for Holocaust Testimonies at Yale University. That Songs from Testimonies Volume 1. We have already recorded Volume 2, so there'll be a second season of this podcast, video podcast of vlog, right? So I'm learning how to do that. And by the way, check it out. It's on zisel.bandcamp.com. This just first of all, not the podcast. It's still in the works, but the album. You can listen to it. You can download it. Get a vinyl. We got a vinyl. So everybody makes a vinyl. So
Oh, weren't you also in the movie Defiance?
I was in movie Defiance. So I can play a little bit. It was before my actually last big gig, except for my conservatory teaching. Before I left Belarus, the movie was filmed in Lithuania, but in the same historic forest, which spreads out in Nalibokskaya Pushcha, Naliboki Forest, or Naliboki National Park, where the Belsky Brothers Partisan Brigade was based. That was quite memorable and important work for me. I learned quite a bit. I mean, what did I know? I still lived in that world, but working with Daniel Craig and Leif Schreiber and Ed Zwick, and then we had some very nice, touching reunions here on this shore already.
Nice.
With Leif Schreiber in particular. Yeah, no, that was very meaningful because that's a chance to tell, to talk about, survival and about positive, again, strength that comes from positive attitude, that we're not surrendering in the worst of conditions and keep making music. So I was a clarinetist. I was a partisan clarinetist. I'm not even sure that there was one in the woods there. But yeah, it was.
There
fun.
were musicians.
They're always working musicians. So I can show a little bit of sort of my teaser, which has a few pictures from Defiance, and I'll just quickly fast forward to that. So so this. Let's start with some orchestral things and. Oh wait, where are we? I'm lost in the windows. So here we are. Okay, I'll play a little bit from this teaser. It was a dream unfinished project. That was the Goldene Kalle, Rumschinsky's operetta. We played with the Volksbühne for 2 seasons.
I've never been more proud than tonight.
This is something that led to the Fiddler on the Roof in Yiddish, the anniversary concert at Town Hall. And this is the Defiance. This is the wedding scene in the woods. Stop here. So, to probably wrap it up, I'll say that there are many music I love to play, and I hope will pick up. Right before the lockdown, actually, I can show a little bit. We were playing, just developing a new program with the Zisel Sapovich trio with Nadav Lev, who's also, I know, our friend in common, a wonderful guitarist.
Wonderful.
And Dmitry Ishenko on the bass. So we played partially a program in February, and the music salon of my dear friend and also one of my fiddler subs, a classical and klezmer clarinetist as well, Naum Goldenstein.
Mm-hmm.
So in the Empty Circle, they have music series here in Brooklyn and Gowanus. Mm-hmm. The program we were working was on the Vilna, the court music of Vilna reimagined, and the base of that, and Vilna being the capital of not just today's Vilnius Lithuanian Republic, but also this huge state, the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, Grand Principality of Lithuania, which is one of the Europe's biggest states between 13th and 17th centuries, which later became part of Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. And also Jewish music, by the way, and Jewish history was pretty big there. And this is where Litvish dialect Yiddish belongs. So this kind of music that is based on those manuscripts of the Book of Polotsk Schitak, and Book of Vilna, the Vilensky Schitak, and other manuscripts from the Renaissance era. We improvise and play anything from sort of Renaissance and Baroque improvisations to free jazz. We stopped there. We scheduled the concert on the 13th of March to play at the Broadway Dive club, pub, where we played semi-regularly, where we started as a trio. And then I called up the owner and said, you know what, we're not coming. The situation is not good. And it was Friday night, and so no, I don't feel safe. I'm sorry that this is one time I have to bail out, and what can I do? But I can show a little bit of that and what it sounds like.
Okay, let's watch a little bit.
Yeah. Where is it? Where is that?
Leave us
Sorry.
with this.
My blind eyes, So use that. I compose music as well. I do different stuff. I can't. Wait. I have to focus on that. This teaser. Huh.
You see it?
I don't. Oh, here it is.
Oh,
Okay. I will share. I'll just show a little bit. Okay.
there you are.
Yeah. So that was that. So I hope it
Uh-huh.
will pick
I love
up from where we left
Yes.
rather sooner than later, but of course in a safe way. And we're past this pandemic.
Yes.
So yeah, Talya, thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you.
It was so much
and
fun.
just play a couple sounds for
Yes, play a couple sounds.
So I think it will be. Okay.
So cool how many different sounds can come out of that.
Yeah.
I just love it. It's like a conversation you're having.
Always a conversation. I think that's the mega theme,
Yes.
life mega theme conversation to keep
Yes.
that going.
And this was a wonderful conversation this evening.
Thank you, Talya.
So much. I'm so lucky that you came on. So thank you so much for
Very
our
little.
listeners for watching. And I look forward to the day that we can collaborate in person again.
Go back to our duo obligato.
Duo obligato.
That's really
Started that
obligato
right
to do.
before. Yes, there's a lot to do. So hopefully keep praying and hoping this thing will be past us soon and we can go back to all the joys and all things
Yeah, yeah.
had before.
Yeah, it will. It will. We'll survive.
Yes. All right.
All right.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much, Talya.
Enjoy your evening, and we will
Thank
talk
you.
soon.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening and tuning in with Talya this evening. Have a great night.